everyone, it's rather a change of venue, but welcome to Village Fabrics as it now appears in my dining room. In the last video that I did, I showed you this little sunflower coaster, and I thought I would just take the opportunity to show you how to make this. It's very straightforward, but does have a little interesting technique for putting the little petals around the edges. So as when you are making anything, the first thing you have to do is to cut. Now as I go along, I'm going to tell you the sizes of the pieces that you need to cut. So if you can't get out, I'm sure you're going to be able to find some fabrics that will work for this project. We do have it as a kit available on our website. Just have a look on there. I'm going to put this video on the website against this particular project. But anyway, here we are. Let's start. The very first thing that we're going to cut out are the 13 1.5-inch squares that are required to make the petals that go around the edge. So as always, I cut standing up. I make sure that I have my fabric square and level, and I have my fingers out of the way, and I cut along the edge of the ruler, cutting away from myself. I'm not going to cut all 13, that would be rather boring for everyone, but I am going to cut just a couple out so that I can repeat the process for you. So 2 1.5-inch squares is what I'm going to cut. You will need a total of 13. You have little squares. The other things that you need are 5-inch diameter circle. I've just cut this one out of paper, but obviously if you have some cardboard or if you have some circular templates at home, this is the time to use them. So draw around your fabric using a Frixian pen, a pencil, whatever, but do it on the reverse side and then it won't matter. You need to cut 2 pieces of fabric, 1 piece of wadding. Now because I'm at home, the only wadding that I have is some Hobbs heirloom, but in our kit we have put some insulating wadding in there, which is probably a better use, a better wadding for the use that you're going to put this to. So let's start assembling. The first thing that you need to do with these little squares, they are quite tiny, is to fold it in half to make a rectangle. Crease that fold in place. If you have an iron, obviously this is the point to get out and use to press. Just for ease here, I'm going to just finger press along that line. If I put this just about here, hopefully, you will be able to see that I am now going to bring the two folds into the center. And what I have actually created is a triangular shape. Again, I'm going to just give that a little finger press. And I have created a little triangle just like this. You need to make 13 of these, so by the time you finish them, you'll know how to do them. Let me do one more. Fold in half, finger crease the fold, bring the folded edge down to the center of the bottom edge, and make a triangle. Because of the number of layers that you're creating here, you really do need to tack along this edge. It won't hold otherwise. So what I've done to make life a little bit easier for myself is I've made a start and I've got 4 of them on a 1 piece of tacking thread here. It's really rather like a necklace. So keeping within your sewing allowance, your seam allowance of 1/4 of an inch, just tack along that top line. There we go, just a few stitches. I do try to do as those very good Japanese ladies do, and I move the fabric, not the needle. Gives you a straighter line, it's a bit easier on your fingers as well. So I'm really holding the needle steady and waggling the fabric. Is that a word, waggling? Anyway, you want to do that until you have all 13 pieces on a little necklace like this. In our kit, we have included a piece of fabric that has little ladybirds. Apply some bondaweb onto the back, allow it to set, then cut out as many ladybirds as you want. So you have one tiny little ladybird like this. She's really very tiny, but all you want to do at this point is to apply her onto one of the pieces, or one of the circles that you have already cut out. So I would be putting her on here. Now you can go around her with a blanket stitch by hand, or you can sew one seam down, sew a backing stitch down the center of the spine. Apply this on to the circle before you put the petals around. Now the petals need to be on their little strings so that you can manipulate them and place them around the edge of the same circle as you have applied the ladybird onto. Because of the layers that you have created at this point, besides pinning as I'm doing just at the minute to hold this in place, I would now tack this, again staying within my seam allowance so I don't have to remove any of the tacking afterwards. I would tack this to get all of these little triangles around the edge of the circle. Now the only tricky bit, and I wouldn't even call it tricky, is to make sure that you now layer up these three pieces, your two circles and your wadding, in the right order. So put your wadding down, put your, what will be the front, because this one has the ladybird on it. I'll just pin her on there in the meanwhile. You could of course embroider a bee on here, or you could embroider a ladybird, whatever, but I just like a little ladybird in there. So I have that right side up. The second fabric circle I am going to place on top, wrong side up. So I have right sides facing of the important pieces, which are the pieces of fabric. So my sandwich is wadding, then my right sided piece of my front showing, and then the wrong side of my back piece showing. At this point I would just pin around because I have tacked those rather small little triangles in place. So I'm just popping pins in to keep circles. It's always best to just do sort of north, south, east and west when you're pinning. So this is the sandwich, and you are now ready to sew around this. I'm not going to do that live, that's just a bit more than my nerves can stand, so let's put the onus on you. What you need to do is to slowly stitch around here within your normal quarter of an inch. Leave yourself a reasonable size opening, maybe 2 inches. Then you want to trim back your seam allowance to maybe, certainly more than 1/8 of an inch, but a little bit less than the quarter. Turn it through, then with a little ladder stitch that I have stitched across here. The petals tend to be very useful for pulling the whole assembly right sides out. ladder stitch it closed, and there you are. You have one of these lovely little sunshine, bits of sunshine for you with a sunflower coaster. Now the interesting technique in this was folding the little petals, and I think that next time we might have a go at some of the more complex folded shapes. In the background here you can see a couple of different designs that we have in folded work, and again we have them in different sizes. So that's what I plan to do. I'll do some samples up and I'll see you all again soon. In the meanwhile, look after one another and be sensible, and we'll see you